welcome you all to this special occasion, the launch of Swallowing the Sun by Mrs. Lakshmi Murdeshwar Puri. I now invite Mrs. Murdeshwar, SAS woman of Kanpur, to deliver the welcome address.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Good evening, everyone. I, Murdeshwar, SAS woman of Kanpur, deem it to my honor to welcome you all to the much anticipated book launch of Swallowing the Sun by the distinguished Mrs. Lakshmi Murdeshwar Puri. This event is brought to you by the Prabha Foundation, a non-profit foundation deeply committed to promoting cultural and literary endeavors for the past 40 years and for continuously nurturing spaces for literary voices to be heard and celebrated. Today's event is in collaboration with FICCI Kanpur. This evening, Mrs. Puri will be in conversation with Aarti Gupta, SAS woman of Kanpur, diving into the depths of Swallowing the Sun, a work that explores themes of resilience, empowerment, and self-discovery. The dialogue promises to be a thought-provoking exploration of the ideas and emotions woven into this powerful narrative. Before we have the opportunity to listen to the author and conversationalist for today, allow me to introduce Prabha Foundation and its initiatives. Prabha Foundation is a Kolkata-based non-profit organization, a non-profit trust, is recognized as an organization that creates the finest literary and cultural experiences on the global map. The foundation was established by an eminent Indian literature, entrepreneur, philanthropist, social activist, and feminist, late Dr. Prabha back in the 1980s. With the envision of late Dr. Prabha and her golden philosophy, Karma Hi Jeevan Hai, the foundation strives relentlessly to create cultural capital through activities and endeavors that propagate literary and cultural assets of India. In the past 4 decades, the foundation grew in stature and recognition as an organization that gives the best platform to writing genesis and showcases the kaleidoscopic cultural heritage of India. The foundation dedicatedly works across more than 60 cities to connect readers to the literary creations of authors and poets and showcases talented musicians, dancers, storytellers, and performing artists through its stellar literary and cultural initiatives. The foundation cherishes a close association of distinguished associates, collaborators, partners, and SAS women of India in creating landmark events on the global map. It supports the UNESCO view that cultural development has the potential to be an alternative way of promoting sustainable development in poor rural communities. The anthem of Prabha Foundation deserves special mention. It is ensured by the national philosophy, unity in diversity. The anthem of Prabha Foundation has been curated by musical genius Pandit Vishwa Mohan Bhattji. The anthem reflects the true essence of the multicultural diversity of India. The foundation has several boutique literary initiatives under its wing: an author's afternoon, the Right Circle, Kalam, Loves, Akhar, etc. of the literary initiatives. Book launches occupy a unique significance to us, making the emergence of each birth of a book and offering authors a platform to present their latest literary works to an insightful and discerning audience. Over to Neha.
Thank you. May I now invite Mrs. Nandini Sambal, FLO Kanpur chairperson, to address the audience and extend a warm welcome to our speaker for today's event.
lovely to address a hall that's full of lovely people. So, welcome you all to this afternoon. So happy to have everyone here. Since we have people who are outside of FLO, I would take you through our journey of FLO, which started in 2015, and I am the 10th chairperson of the FICCI FLO Kanpur chapter. So since I take this liberty to let you know about a little bit about FLO. So it's an honor to stand here today as we reflect on the incredible strides made by our chapter and the inspiring initiatives undertaken by FLO nationally. Taking you through the journey from 2015, and we were driven by the vision of women empowerment in all spheres of life, as our logo says, power to empower. Our key effort has been the work in rural entrepreneurship led by our founder chair, Archana Khaitanji of FLO Kanpur Lucknow chapter under the National Initiative of Rural Livelihood and Entrepreneurship. And then FLO Kanpur adopted a village called Hingopur, where we have empowered women by teaching them vital skills to earn a sustainable livelihood. It started with Rakhi making, and we went up to the sewing machine, the candle making, the block printing. And over the years, we provided a beauty parlor course and other courses, even more avenues for them to grow and support their families. And I'm proud to share, today the self-help group, under the women who we started training at our Ek Prayas project, has now reached the UP International Trade Fair this year, showcasing the journey of true empowerment in the last 10 years. And when I met her at the UP ITS, she nicely says, Didi, hum yahan tak aa gaye. So she was a woman with a gait like this, with a back like this, with a pallu like this, and now she's strong, and I was happy to see her like this. So from here on, we look forward to repeating this model with another village and creating another success story. One of our proudest moments and achievements in the year is Digital Literacy Initiative, which I have taken up. But its foundation was laid by our, I can say, founder of the Kanpur chapter, Dr. Anuradha Varshney, in 1920. And the initiative began here, and it was recognized as the best practice across FLO then in 2019-20 and in 24-25 by bringing in digital literacy to young girls of Nagar Nigam schools at that time. And this year we are proud to have been started the courses and doing it in 8 Nagar Nigam schools, where we teach coding to 33 to 35 girls in every school. In June this year, we hosted a Young Founders Summit that kicked off with 400 students to begin with from 16 different schools. And the program offered a mini Shark Tank experience where 65 students made it to the finals. And this, I proudly say, is under our startup vertical. And I'm very, very proud to have Dr. Aarti Gupta as our GB National Head Startup Cell. And every year she makes FLO, she makes Kanpur proud, prouder and proudest. She's just come back from BRICS and from BRICS at Russia, and we haven't had a chance to speak to her with all the experiences that she had. But I know it's something that we all need to know and find out. So the National Head of FLO Startup Cell is Aarti Gupta. During her tenure in 2021, she pioneered the creation of this cell and launched the Mentor-Mentee program. This has come a far long way now, and She Rises is the initiative in the second year now. I'm proud to share that we had 65 participants last year, 18 this year, and now 11 finalists who are going on to the second level. She Rises fosters a culture of mentorship, empowering women to share, network, grow, and now even invest. That's what we want to teach our women, to invest as well. हम कमाते तो हैं पर इन्वेस्ट करने के लिए अपने बेटर हाफ को दे देते हैं. So we want to do it now, and Aarti is powered and empowered to teach us and take this forward. Locally, our chapter continues to champion the cause that matter deeply to all women at grassroots level. It may sound very basic, but a standout example is our menstruation hygiene drive, Project Punk, that took wings during the time of our past chair Kanika Vaid in 2021-22, which rises every year. Sneha did a very good project last year with Alemco, where we reached about 44 schools in Kanpur, government schools, and we trained as many students over there, and we made sure we could tell them कि periods में भी school आना है. And a very good and a very meaningful part that came out of this project was where we could make both genders sit down and explain to them, and how we saw that both genders accepted this talk. So, I mean, you know, where at this point the gender parity comes in, and I'm so proud of the boys who are accepting it so well, and that makes the girls also feel very protected and feel liberated as well. So this year, we took this menstruation hygiene drive a bit further and proudly partnered with Ekal Foundation, and together we aim to cover 480 villages by the end of the tenure. We've done over 120 by now. This initiative is not just about providing hygiene products, but educating women and young girls about health, breaking stigmas, and creating a community of awareness. I would like to recognize work done by our past chair Pooja Gupta, who is heading the FLO Business Exchange Cell this year, and she worked on village empowerment and disability during her year, which I picked up again this year, and you all just saw a show that was based on the specially abled. A fashion show just went up. It was on the agenda of FLO Kanpur. It was called Dharohar 24, where we made our members walk. It was a fashion walk that celebrated a cause, and the cause was to put the specially abled, the transgender, the underprivileged walk along with the FLO members. And yes, it was a beautiful show that was liked by one and all, and I'm happy that I could live up to that cause. In 23-24, financial literacy as a national vertical was taken up by our past chair Sneha Gupta, and she excelled in driving this impactful financial literacy initiative and strong branding, which you can see at Moti Jheel, where she's tried to showcase that हमको पढ़ना भी है and हमको अपने ऊपर अपने आप खड़ा भी होना है. So बेटी बचाओ, बेटी पढ़ाओ, and बेटी कमाओ. That was the slogan given by Sneha, and it's one of the powerful journeys that we carry on with. Her term stood for its strategic efforts in educating and empowering women with financial knowledge. So together these initiatives reflect the essence of what FLO stands for: empowering women, fostering leadership, and creating avenues for growth at all levels. So we are working at the grassroots level, we are working at women at large, and we are working for our members as well. So with each project, each partnership, it's a step forward towards building a brighter, more inclusive future for women in India. And I'm grateful for the support that all of you give, and especially my past chairs. Help me stand, support me, and make this dream a reality. Today I take a moment, and I am so happy to welcome you, Mrs. Puri, at an event like this, and I am so happy that we have a full audience. I told my members, don't regret, just come. It is my great honor to introduce our esteemed speaker today, Lakshmi Murdeshwar Puri. is a distinguished diplomat, advocate for gender equality, and author whose work has left an indelible mark on the global stage. With a career spanning over 37 years in the Indian Foreign Service and the United Nations, she has played a pivotal role in international development and women's empowerment. As the former Assistant Secretary General of the United Nations and Deputy Executive Director of UN Women, Mrs. Puri has been at the forefront of advocating for gender equality, sustainable development, human rights across the world. Her leadership is in shaping global agendas, particularly through her work on the sustainable development that has been transformative. Today we are privileged to have her with us, not only to share her insights, but also to launch the latest literary work. I've read it, Swallowing the Sun. This book promises to be a captivating read, blending her profound experience with her literary talent. Please join me in welcoming Mrs. Lakshmi Murdeshwar.
Prabhakatan Foundation promotes cross-state cultural understanding and appreciation. A mosaic of cultures forms the backbone of a nation, contributing to its vibrancy and richness. This is to support our ongoing efforts to foster unity and appreciation of the rich cultural heritage across India's diverse states. Highlighting the relevance of the same, today we are pleased to felicitate the author with the ethnic dupatta of Kantha Utorio stones. Kantha is a centuries-old tradition of stitching patchwork cloth from rags, which evolved from the thrift of rural women in the Bengali region of the subcontinent. Today, the eastern Indian states of West Bengal, Orissa and Bangladesh. It can be traced back 500 years as a way the Bengalis recycled old saris, dhotis and household textiles by using the Kantha technique. They upcycled their old textiles into quilts for warmth and comfort. I would now like to call upon Arshna ji, Anuradha ji and Kanika, the FLO Kanpur past chairs, to felicitate Mrs. Puri. I would also request Halim ji to please kindly be here on the stage.
Loud round of applause. It's truly an honor today to be here in conversation with this remarkable woman for the launch of her debut novel, Swallowing the Sun, a critically acclaimed national bestseller. Mrs. Puri, I have long admired your trailblazing work, much before this book, your work as a diplomat and your unwavering advocacy for women's rights. This novel is yet another testament to the values you've championed throughout your life and career. Before we begin the conversation, I want to take a minute to talk what the book is about, because I know that not a lot of the audience have read the book, right? So let's just briefly understand. Swallowing the Sun is a stunning exploration of love, valor, and India's struggle for independence through the eyes of 3 generations of women, especially through its unforgettable and feisty young heroine, Malti. The novel captures the exhilarating highs and the terrible lows of the most tumultuous period in modern Indian history. Malti's steeliness and fearlessness enable her to defy the constricting patriarchal traditions of her time and take on all those who try to carve her down. As a young girl, Malti fights and defeats the school bully of her village school in Maharashtra. From then onwards, backed by her progressive father, very important, progressive father. She and her sister Kamala pushed the boundaries constantly. After an eventful girlhood, the sisters become the first women in their family to go to college. Malti becomes a pioneering lawyer and strikes out on her own. She ends up in Bombay, a hotbed of political ferment, where even as Malti's whirled along by the irresistible current and excitement of the battle for independence, she negotiates the big and the small aspects of everyday life: love, loss, failure, and compromise. Imaginative, compelling, and exquisitely told. It is an epic feat of remembering and storytelling, man. This was personally, I feel that this novel is so original and so exciting that it will be remembered as one of the most powerful stories told in our times. So thank you so much, and thank you once again for choosing Kanpur to launch your book.
Thank you so much, Aarti. And I'm very overwhelmed being here in Kanpur. So let me first of all say namaste, namaskar, adab, कानपुर के रसिकों। Good evening. Indeed, this is the first city in Uttar Pradesh that I'm coming to launch this. Kanpur. And there is so much serendipity, this beautiful coincidences between my book, the sole force of this book, there are two sole forces, if you will, of this book. One is the freedom struggle, that epic freedom struggle of India, which really became an exemplar for the world, for the decolonization of other countries in the world. And then there is the cultural renaissance, and particularly I bring here in my book Marathi cultural renaissance. And I found that, of course, Kanpur is the Punya Bhumi, the sacred bhumi of the first war of independence. And Veer Savarkar in 1909 called it that. Until then, it was called the 1857 rebellion, mutiny and rebellion. So this was the first war, and my book deals with the last war, the part from 1918 to 1952. So that is one. The other, this is such a culturally rich place, and literally, the Kavya Bhumi as well. And there are so many wonderful poets here, Suman ji, Nirala ji, and then of course Subhadra Kumari Chauhan, all of them, they've inspired me, and particularly Chayawadi poets. Nirala ji's Tum aur main, तुम तुंग हिमालय श्रृंग और मैं चंचल गति सुरसरिता, तुम विमल हृदय उच्छ्वास और मैं कांत कामिनी कविता. So this is the essence of this cosmic love, this elusive thing called love that I try to explore in this novel. So all these coincidences, all this serendipity, and I'm here in Kanpur. And thank you all, the Rasikas, for being here. But first of all, let me also thank the Prabhakar Khaitan Foundation. This is perhaps my 12th launch with them. I've been all over the country with them, and now they are taking me to New York
to launch my book at the New York Literature Festival. And they are doing great service because books, reading books, writing, I think we still survive. Writers are compulsive in writing books, but reading public is diminishing, and particularly among the young. So you do need a movement like Prabha Khaitan Foundation to do that. And I would very much like to thank FLO for also joining in this launch today. And I've had a long association with FLO too, let me tell you. I was just sharing with Aditi that I was Joint Secretary, Economic Division and Multilateral Economic Relations for some 6 years in the 90s. And thereafter, when I was with UNCTAD, UN Conference on Trade and Development, then, I had a lot to do with FICCI and FLO and all the women entrepreneurs, movements here. And it's so wonderful to hear what you are doing for women's empowerment. And the power to empower is really something you have utilized to the full. And Geeta ji, thank you so much, Geeta Malhotra ji. I think what I discovered about you yesterday was that not only have you very kindly organized this and hosted this event, but you're also in your own right managing a very worthy institution for empowering underprivileged girls to study STEM. And this is something really needed. And that connection, again, another big area of empowerment. Thank you so much, all of you. And over to you.
Thank you, ma'am. Like, really overwhelmed. Just the way your graciousness of just being here and the way you spoke, really touches our heart. Thank you, really. We appreciate you once again. So let's begin. Yeah? Up for some questions?
Absolutely.
Okay. Ma'am, you've been a diplomat, an author, and a passionate advocate for women's empowerment. How have you managed to balance these diverse and distinct roles? And was there a particular time in your life, a turning point, right, where you decided to write Swallowing the Sun? What I heard and read, that the genesis of this book started about 18 years back when you were an ambassador at Budapest. So tell us, how did this come about?
No, all three roles I've been very passionate about, and they have cohabited me for many decades. Since I began my diplomatic career, I was the youngest foreign service officer. I was 21. And since then, up to now, I have always wanted to write this particular novel. So this novel has been wanting to be written all these decades. So that's one. But I've never been able to get down to it. And I think the other two roles of diplomat and one other role that we women are fortunate to also have, that of being a mother, I think homemaker, mother. So I think that also didn't permit me to really set aside that time that you need to go inside yourself and write a fiction. I've written many non-fiction books in the professional context, but this is my debut novel. And yes, it has been quite a journey because, I started writing, I wrote 100 pages in around 2002 when I was in Budapest, and then I got a mental block because I think I was trying to do too much. I think for writers who are trying to write a novel, it's important to scope what you want to do, otherwise you can get discouraged. That's what happened to me. I wanted to do a 3-generation thing covering my generation, my daughter's generation who went to the US when she was 16, to study, and then made a wonderful career for herself there, life for herself there. So I wanted to cover these three in one novel, which was very daunting. So after 100 pages I stopped, and then I was busy with my diplomatic career with the UN, and then I was privileged to head this first in the world organization to promote gender equality and women's empowerment, and for 7 years to build it up, ground up, and that plus overall, because I've dealt with the UN, I was very influenced by the values that both my feminist parents, and I want to emphasize that, feminist parents who have inspired this novel, they espoused and practiced, and the UN, its values. Apart from, of course, gender equality and women's empowerment, this novel is also about the indomitable human spirit, the triumph of the human spirit, the hope that it embodies. So that's the story. And then I came back because my husband had taken over, he had joined the government, so he called me back, and of course I had to be with him by his side. So I came back, and since then, when COVID came, that was the time when it was a question, this labor of love, this thing that was within me as something that I have to do to pay tribute. There's this beautiful poem that my friend Malashri Lal has written about, may you honor your ancestors whose genes sleep deep within you, those who fought for freedom and kinship, for little women, and I will add men, such as you. So it was that kind of...
It's such a powerful, I love this genes sleep within you, that's such a powerful reminder of how we need to sort of acknowledge the sacrifice which was done for us so that we can be in this room on this beautiful evening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
And as free people.
Yes, absolutely. Moving on to the next question. The title Swallowing the Sun, right? It's so striking. I read in the book that it's derived from an ancient devotional song by the 13th century sage poet Muktabai. Can you explain how did the title come along and what is the significance of this metaphor? And why it felt like the perfect title for your book? I remember you telling us a couple of hours back that you had another title in mind. Please tell the audience, because I love that title as well. But Swallowing the Sun, please tell us, where did it originate?
Yes. So there is this absolutely marvelous saint, woman saint, called Muktabai. She is now worshipped as Adi Shakti Chandi Devi in Maharashtra, but she was a teenage saint. She died tragically when she was just 18, but she was already a mystical saint and a guru who had men followers as well. She was the sister of Sant Jnaneshwar. So she used to always fascinate me, and my mother had introduced me to her when I was young. And so this particular abhang, you must have heard about Sant Tukaram's abhangas, but this abhang of hers particularly obsessed me and was with me for many years, and also it was very inspirational. It's a surreal poem in so many ways. So let me say it in Marathi and then I will translate it into English. मुंगी उडाली आकाशी, तिने गिळले सूर्याशी, थोर नवलव झाला, वाज पुत्र प्रसवला, विंचू पाताळासी जाय, शेष माथा बंदी पाय, माशी व्याली, घार झाली, देखोनी मुक्ताई हसी. The ant flies into the sky. She swallows the sun. Another miracle. A barren woman gives birth to a son. The scorpion burrows down to the nether realms. The snake king Shesha bows his head at its feet. The housefly begets a hawk. Muktabai sees all, Muktabai loves. So, the message here is what is so potent. And that's why I called it swallowing the sun. The message is that if you believe, if you have faith, the impossible is possible. The seemingly impossible, because everything is seemingly impossible. And all the characters, many of mine, in fact most of my women characters and even my men characters, and even at the national level, people like Mahatma Gandhi, who were trying to achieve the impossible. Who would have thought in the 1920s and 30s that we will actually get independence? Remember, Lord Irwin was talking about 600 years, that India will be ready for independence in 600 years. So this is about that spirit of keeping faith, daring to do that which you think is desirable or that which you think is necessary and must be done, and also persisting in that and breaking boundaries, because this is about breaking boundaries. You know, a housefly begetting a hawk, an ant flying into the sky. All of this is about breaking boundaries.
Absolutely, and something which all of us need to hear, right? That if we believe and have faith, the seemingly impossible will be possible. Ma'am, the next question is about your protagonist, Malti. You know, she's fierce, unapologetic, and driven. For the audience who may not have read the book, could you share a little about the theme of the book? What inspired you to create a protagonist like Malti?
So, I should have mentioned early on that this book is a coming of age novel. Young people, about young people, for young people. So that's the first thing. Although it may be a historical novel, it's very contemporary.
I personally was very surprised how much I could relate with Malti.
Exactly.
You know? Even though it is set in like pre-independence era.
Exactly. Then it's and many people have called it an epic love story and a grand romance of the kind which has not been written in recent times. And in that process, of course, I also explored, as I said earlier, the concept of love, whether it is love between man and a woman, as friends, as husband and wife, but also between father and daughters, mother and daughters, between siblings, the sisterhood part. So all of those, love relationships, and it's a plea to young people to believe in love, because increasingly relationships are becoming more and more transactional and more with the machine. And I'll come to that later when we talk about letters. So that too. And then this is, as I said earlier, this is about the political, the big epic sweep of the freedom struggle against which all of this happens. Now, coming to Malti and the women, as I already said, these women characters, Malti leads, and she is the heartbeat of the novel. And she leads, and everything, all the characters are developed around her. She is very much modeled on my mother. But it doesn't, it's not the exact trajectory. It is fiction. So, but inspired by her. That courage, that fierceness, that brilliance, that photographic memory that she has, the fearlessness with which she does, the sincerity, and the willingness to help other women, and truth seeking, justice seeking, all of that, those are very much modeled on my mother. And also there are other women characters, some maybe one or two very much like the ones in our lives, but the rest are all creatures who have claimed me as their creator, because I always keep saying I did want to play God and imagine a lot of people who are born, who pass through life in destiny and who move on. But another very
I was actually going to come to this now.
Yes.
Like, I actually, when I read the book, I think every character of yours is so deep. I think every character deserves a book of their own, right? Like it's and I must urge, it's not just Malti. Or normally we usually have the protagonist and she's fierce and she's amazing, Malti, right? Like,
yes.
And you love her. But there are so many other characters in the book. You've shown different aspects of women through these strong characters. And I want you to read something. Tell us who besides Malti is your favorite character.
So let me first read about Malti, and which shows how she, in her Elphinstone College class, she goes ahead and criticizes the British in Elphinstone College, openly in the class, and she says that British imperialism is going to end. I know it, we are going to work for it, and so on. So she's of course called in by the professor and told that this time she's going to be excused, but next time it will mean that she will no longer be studying in the college, be thrown out. So that's when she thinks about what she will lose. So this is that, it's in a chapter called Metamorphosis. And this whole Swallowing the Sun is also about metamorphosis that we all go through in life, to progress ourselves, to reimagine ourselves. And these characters also, they reimagine themselves, they reimagine their societies and their country. Malti and Kamla, Kamla is the sister, 1 year older than her, had come to believe that they were living in Bombay at a time when everything was being turned inside out and upside down, the improbable Muktabai way. It was as if the small, sweet elchi bananas grew with their ivory-colored, fragrant, sweet, pulpy flesh outside, enveloping their thin, yellow, blotchy skin inside. It was as if the Indian tiger had come out of the forest and sat supping with brown coolies at the starched linen-covered table in the Gymkhana Club of Bombay. Remember, in the Gymkhana Club of Bombay, they had a sign, Indians and dogs not allowed. Being served by British sahibs in red and white uniforms, doubling over to please the natives. It was as if the frail Indian ascetic, with nothing but the sword of his soul force, the shield of his khadi loincloth, and the cannon fire of the Indian masses, was breaching the iron and stone battlements of the great British Empire, riding on the waves of his tremulous voice. They cherished their freedom to become part of this miracle making, even if, as a tiny part, they did not want to lose that privilege.
Amazing.
Then there is, of course, this Sarla, who is the daughter of the first wife of their eldest sister's husband. And their eldest sister is the second wife. And so she's the stepdaughter, beautiful, intelligent, and again, she is wanting to break all boundaries and do something extraordinary. It's also about, the ordinary, trying to become extraordinary, but she was actually extraordinary in many ways. And she sometimes says she is Persephone, the Greek goddess Persephone, who's trapped with Hades in the underworld, and her mother is, struck with divine madness because she sees, people's future, and she has these fits. So poor girl, in one sense, sees herself as a victim, as a Persephone, and also wants to prove to her father that she's extraordinary. And then she also, after she gets married, she is also, she learns writing, she does hunting, and when she gets married, the girls meet her, they have become friends with her, the girls meet her, and she complains about her husband, who is a feudal lord, that he doesn't have passion. So Malti turns around and says, but women are not supposed to feel any passion or desire any passion. So she turns around and says, you modern women, you are getting educated in Elphinstone College and you are talking like this. See what Kautilya said. And then she quotes Kautilya to say, you supposedly modern women should know that Kautilya opined that women are twice as hungry for food than men, and the desire for sex 8 times more than that of men. Of course, he also said that women's astuteness is double that of men, and their courage 6 times. So,
wow. And actually, I personally feel Sarva is so symbolic of many women who are trying to break out of what society expects out of them, right? As society, we expected as women to be like coy, shy, not put forward your wants and dreams.
yes.
Yeah, it's a beautiful, beautiful passage, and I love the way you sort of quoted Kautilya, which is a book on warfare, right? It's like
statecraft.
Yes.
And also, he's not very, typically he's not pro women's empowerment. But I found this
absolutely,
passage, so I said I must use it.
Managed to
I
quote
could
him.
imagine Sarla using it.
Yeah, and one of your most empowered characters quoting someone who's not so pro women empowerment. That's the beauty. That's
tradition because ultimately tradition is about who interprets it and for what purpose. So we women have to learn to interpret tradition to support our agenda of gender equality and women's empowerment.
wow, that's so powerful. That the interpretation is in our hands, right? How we interpret traditions is in our own hands. So let's interpret it for our own empowerment. Beautiful. Ms. Puri, you set the novel against the epic struggle for India's independence. How did you balance incorporating these historical elements with the personal stories of Malti and her family? How does the political context amplify the theme of women's empowerment in the story? And I know, the couple of paragraphs you've quoted sort of speak around women empowerment. But tell us a little bit more about this.
So, this is something that was fundamental to me. This interlinkage, this intertwining between the personal histories of my characters and as I said, the epic struggle for freedom. And what I did was that I looked at the convergences between the major events, the major personalities of the freedom movement, and that of, and I must admit, that some of the major protagonists, whether it is Malti, whether it is Guru, whether it's Baba, they are inspired by my parents. And the coincidences in their own trajectory. So let me just give you the main events where these young people showed their patriotic effort and took part in this freedom movement. So the first thing was the first gesture that they made of nationalistic effort and in some ways mobilization was in what is called the theatre of resistance, having a play called Satye Che Gulam, which was a revolutionary play by Varedkar at that time. He was a very well-known playwright, and very subtly he was able to raise all the questions of nationalism and ending British imperialism, supporting also in many ways Satyagraha, etc. So getting to enact that play in which Guru and Malti act and all the others act, and after that they form cells to support the Satyagraha movement. So that's the first. Now I got this idea because I discovered and I remembered that my father had founded the Marathi Theatre Society in Elphinstone College, and he had held some play. I didn't know which one. So I imagined and I, made this the first big act of patriotism. Then the second thing I discovered was Yusuf Merlin, who led the Simon Commission protests. And it was lathi, they went to the Victoria Docks and they were lathi charged there. So those people worked together with my parents, both in Elphinstone College and Law College. Yes, so then that was also another episode. Similarly, Banaras Hindu University, when my mother was there, it was at the height of the Anushilan Samiti, and the armed resistance movement was very active in Banaras. They were called the Gundas of Banaras, how active they were against the British. And there had been many instances of assassination and attempted assassination of British officials, etc. Kakori, so-called Kakori, now it is called something else. The British used to call it Kakori conspiracy or Kakori case, but it is now called the patriotic effort. Now Gwalior, where the elder sister and her husband was the finance minister there, so he clandestinely supports the activists who planned the Kakori conspiracy. So that connection, the Gwalior connection came in. So a lot of these coincidences I used to draw the two. But I just want to say that this generation of young people were so fired by their desire to do something for the country. They overcame victimhood, they overcame this self-doubt, because when you are under colonial rule, everything is suppressed. And they mobilized a civilizational awakening which was happening, but they also contributed to it. They took pride in, recalling the civilizational glory of India, and also they used the cultural efflorescence that was happening. There was patriotic poetry, which I'm going to hopefully talk about, and all of that. So that is how this generation really, again, as I said, contributed as heroes. And also I very much, you asked very specifically women, they have been invisible in terms of being acknowledged for their contribution to the freedom movement. And I tried to change that. I tried to bring out that women, ordinary women, they play a very important role, and they are unsung heroes. and it is as much history as it is her story. You know, her story, not only his story. So that was the intent.
Beautifully sort of captured her story, which is history.
So may I just also just capture what you know, the after all their she becomes a lawyer, Malti becomes a lawyer, and she defends her uncle, let us call him an uncle because he's become Kaka, Mohan Kaka. She defends him and his collaborators in a very important political trial and wins the case. So that's another major. And she is actually defending only pro bono. She's doing this work. And then her husband, Guru, my father's, the role model on my father's, namesake or look-alike, he is transferred to Simla at the time of partition. And Simla was the summer capital of the British Raj, and it was the sunset of the British Raj. On the eve of that, they are transferred there, and so she arrives there, and this is what Malti thinks, and which reflects the sentiment of the Indians. Shimla had an allure that was integral to it. No one could take that away, because there was this thing about this was such a British city. They had made it according to their taste, both the playground as well as the Raj ground. So, will they take it away with them? They can't. So that's the sentiment here. No one could take that away. Their eyes, that is Malti and her daughter Pachi's eyes, detected a new self-assurance in the stunning visions of the red sphere of the sun rising from behind the steep-sided Himalayan mountain ranges, permeating everything with the golden light of hope realized of India's multitudes. Then the same sun slinking away into the twilight to expose the soaring jagged knives of the Hatu and other freedom peaks, Kinnor, Kailash and Dev Tibba, plunging vengefully into the hitherto impenetrable imperial skies. The sloping pine and deodar forests standing up to become the canopied sentinels of the sovereignty of all life beneath and around them. The padmak trees with their cascading domes, brushed with delicate light pink flowers, now exuding their true fragrance to exhilarate the body and spirit of Indians coming together at last to reclaim their earth.
Wow, beautiful. We can see that even though this novel is fiction, there are, strings, it's woven with strings of reality and pieces, put together with pieces from your life, that's wonderful. Now we're going to shift gears a bit, and I know one of the central themes in Swallowing the Sun is Malti's unwavering determination to pursue her education. I personally love this paragraph in the beginning of the book where her father sort of puts together a panchayat, and in those days girls were not allowed to study, right? And he's sort of putting out a case why should his daughters be part of the school, and he says that when Saraswati is a woman, how can you not allow these girls to walk into the schools, right? Something which a lot of girls in our country still face, right? I know our Prime Minister's program, Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, has provided education to all girls. But unfortunately, COVID saw 11 million girls drop out of schools. What is your take on how can we achieve gender parity with our betiyan, and not just in education, but like push it one step forward. And I just told you about it, about Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, and Beti Kamao. How can we ensure this gender parity?
Yes. No, in fact, if there is a novel which illustrates the Beti Bachao, Beti Padhao, and Beti Kamao, it is Swallowing the Sun. Because Baba not only believes in the education of his own daughters, and he goes all out to support it, even in the face of the greatest of resistance. And then when his wife dies, I'm giving away the story a little, but even when his wife dies, his daughters are 11 and 12 only. So, those days they used to get married at 11, 12. So he says, I'm not going to get them married. No child marriage, no child motherhood. My wife died because she was married at an early age, had several childbirths. So there again, the body, the sexual and reproductive health of women also being respected. And he said, they are going to go to an ashram, anath ashram, school, boarding school, and he sends them away. Those days, he sends them away to Indore, to a ashram, to study there. So that is a leap of faith. And he was very much influenced by Maharshi Karve, who was leading then a women's education movement. So from there, he then allows them, and in fact encourages them to go to Elphinstone College. She becomes a lawyer later on, after having dropped out a little bit. And she goes alone to work in Banaras Hindu University. So, the role model that this book establishes is very clear, that same path. Now your question, which is very relevant and which is really at the heart of our women-led development that Prime Minister Modi also very much advocates, which is now being made part of the G20, BRICS was referred to. So we have to address the why. Why should girls be educated? The why of why not? How is it that they are not getting gender parity in education? So we have to analyze that as a society, as a country, as a system. Then we have to also make sure what is gender parity in education. It's not only literacy, where there is a gender gap. It is also primary education, but most important, secondary education, higher education, and vocational training and skills. I think that is becoming, and STEM education that we have been talking about. So all of that whole trajectory of education has to be, we have to help girls, and there is a demand side and there is a supply side. So families have to, that's the first place where girl aversion and boy preference has to be eliminated. And that's why, we have had the sex ratio skewed. Now it has been corrected to a large extent thanks to this campaign. And
the world today has few more women than men, overall population. That's the statistic. So as a world, we are more women on this planet Earth than men.
But now we also have in India-wide, I think we have now more women, come to parity, and a little more women. So we have to change that mindset, and it begins with the family. It begins also with the community. It begins also in the corporate world. It's very important that the corporate world changes, and there are some, the FICCI flow is, and the entrepreneurship world. I think all of that needs to be changed, and they have to support. I saw and heard about all the projects you all are doing, and there is this element of every stakeholder making a contribution on the supply side.
Absolutely.
And the demand side has to be driven by, and then it has to be men standing up for women as much as women going out there, seizing opportunities, extracting opportunities. I think both have to be done.
No, absolutely.
And
It's a
investment,
partnership.
you talked about financial empowerment,
Yes.
investment in women's education. And I think there are a number of schemes that are targeted schemes for women and girls education, but also there are other schemes which are transversal for on education, but which particularly help women, girls and women. I think those need, and then the gender digital divide, that has to be also bridged, and access to smartphones, access to devices, internet penetration in remote areas, rural areas, all of that, and overall lifting everyone out of poverty, all of that will help.
I'm sure there are a lot of problems and a lot of issues, but as long as we put one foot in front of the other,
Absolutely.
we will achieve this.
Absolutely.
I'm
And there
quite
has
positive.
been progress.
Absolutely.
There has been progress.
No, and personally, I feel like education for one to make sure that they earn money.
Yes.
I think if we stop seeing education for girls just as education, कि पढ़ लिख लेगी and then शादी हो जाएगी and move away कि पढ़ लिख लेगी और कुछ काम करेगी, I think that narrative needs to change. Once we change that narrative, then there will be gender parity.
Absolutely.
And coming back to your book, I couldn't resist the question on education because your book so strongly talks about it. Reviewers have said that your novel sings, and I personally loved it. It's filled with poetry, and that too in 3 languages, right? The prose itself is so lyrical. Can you explain why you chose this style of writing and how you wove these elements seamlessly into your narrative? Actually, we would love for the audience to sort of hear a couple of those poems.
No, thank you. I was immersed in the poetry that surrounded me. Both my parents, but particularly my father. As somebody said, about a poet, that he was married to bird song. So he was like that. And even when my parents spoke to each other, they would use poetry in their conversations, and in 3 languages, Sanskrit, Marathi and English. So I couldn't escape that temptation, particularly because I was reflecting them. And I also wanted this not to be a biography. I wanted it to be speaking to the heart and soul, and bring out the spiritual, the noble ideas, thoughts coming to life through poetry. So, and my father was a poet and himself, and then he had this favorite book of poems, and I seem to have forgotten to show you how he dedicated that book to me in 1983, and the book itself dates back to 1926 when he compiled that book. And if you see the first page of this book, there is his handwritten poem, one of his favorite poets, Balkavi's poem. So let me begin, and what I've done is I've used these poems to evoke certain, occasions and certain emotions, as you said, and also I've kind of threaded them in the poems into different aspects of the story. So the first poem that I'm going to recite is by Balkavi, and this poem was recited by Guru when he first declares his love to Malti, and they are sitting on the beach, and he writes, and it's evening, and this, of course, this is an ode to the evening goddess, Sandhya Devi. So he's sitting there and he's writing on the wet sand, and they are looking at this setting sun, and he recites this. And by the way, my father had a different tune for every poem that he would recite to us every evening. मेधांचे करि भूर्ज पत्र धरुनी अस्तांजलि प्रत्यहि स्वर्गी चे नवलेख कुमकुम रसे ती सांध्य देवी लिहि रात्रि शांत गभीर अम्बुनिधिचा आनील पुष्टावरी लज्जा लेख लिहि विकंपित करे ती तारका सुंदरी सारे ते मग लेख तुच्छ गमती चित्ताची आलोचनी तिचा अक्षय लेख एक चौपा मी मग्न पारायणी.
Amazing, amazing. That is so soulful. Like, that's beautiful, man.
Holding the birch bark of clouds in her hand, the glorious sunset as a perennial witness grand, her pen dipped in the red sap of my love infinite, the evening goddess writes a new missive exquisite. With enchanting shyness, her cheeks suffused, my beloved rests, her lotus head on my chest bemused. She creates our love epistles mystique in the poetic language of our breaths unique. All those other lyrical outpourings magnificent, in my heart's eyes seem so trivial and insignificant, for I am the sole rapt and discerning reader vernal in the universe of this my beloved's love letter eternal.
Wow.
And then there is this other occasion when they, after 7 years of courtship or dating, as you call it in today's language, they elope, they get married in Nainital, and on their nuptial night, he recites another poem, which is about love unfulfilled.
Unfulfilled love.
Unfulfilled.
On their nuptial night.
On their nuptial night. So Malti asks, why this poem when we have at last fulfilled our long held desire? And so he replies, it might not have happened. So I want you to savor this moment to realize how precious it is. So then he recites this. Ekatra gumfuna jivita dage प्रीतीचे नर्तन नाचलो मागे एकटा उभा मी येथे भोवती शोधी प्रियते ना दिसे का कुठे सोडून गेली हाले ना बोले ना करे ना केली. So basically he says, and he goes on, of course, to say, बाजत जंगल मंगल गान कड्यातून खाली लोटून प्राण होऊनी काशाय रंग प्रेमाने बेहोश दम पाऊगे समाधी सागरियन अजून संपेन वैशाख हन. So it says, a solitary pond, muddied and parched now I stand, searching for my beloved in this wasteland, eager to join my long-lost soulmate in vain, surrounded by sand, yearning for rain. And then he ends by saying, amazed and rendered unconscious by love newborn, the saffron color of passion we must don, throwing ourselves down from the edge to surrender our life force we earnestly pledge. Then we will finally attain our union with the ocean supreme. But alas, ending this cursed season of Vaisakh is but a dream.
Beautiful, man. Beautiful. And this book is filled with so many more. Like, you've truly made the evening so special by singing these verses for us. We're truly privileged to have you here again with us. I have more questions, but I'm going to do a quick rapid fire and come to one last question. And before we open it up to the audience, I'm going to skip some more. I have a long list of questions for you, but maybe we'll take that off stage. But here's the rapid fire for you. Quick 5 questions. Your most memorable achievement at the United Nations?
I think my most memorable achievement at the United Nations was to get a dedicated, standalone, sustainable development goal on gender equality, achieving gender equality and empowerment of all women and girls with 9 targets.
Amazing.
Included in the Agenda 2030 for sustainable development, because it was a real uphill task, and so it was something that I did. And the second was related to that. The second was convening for the first time in the history of the world, convening a summit of over 72 heads of state and government on gender equality and women's empowerment.
That's fabulous. Like, you're truly an inspiration. So if you weren't a diplomat or an author, what would you be?
Both.
If you weren't either of them, you would choose the third one.
Okay. Well, I wanted to be a doctor, and my father just made me do the route change.
Okay, so doctor it is. Your favorite way to unwind after a long day?
Music and dance.
So lovely.
I was a Bharatanatyam dancer, and I still love dancing in every way.
Amazing. A singer, a dancer, a author, a diplomat.
No.
Yeah. One woman from history or fiction who has inspired you the most?
I think Indira Gandhi. When I was growing up, I was in college when 1971 war took place, and we saw her as that epitome of Durga and the empowered leader. So from that time, and then I had the privilege of working with her. I was Under Secretary in Pakistan. And she would, even as Prime Minister, because I was dealing with Pakistan, it was a sensitive subject, I was a desk officer, she would call me for these meetings with the generals and intelligence chiefs and everyone, and I used to feel so uplifted, and she would just look at me and smile, because she and I were the only 2 women in that group.
What would I do to be a fly on one of those walls? What an experience. Your mantra for women empowerment in a sentence?
Well, my mantra is very much in my book in terms of this poem that I would like to end with. It is a poem by B.V. Tilak, and it is so powerful. It's an anthem for all women and girls, but it's also an anthem for all Indians, because today we are at the cusp of greatness. We have set ourselves this 2047 and this Varnakal that we are entering, and so that is a feeling where we must go forward with confidence. So this is that anthem. ईश्वराच्या जगत्कारणाच्या खरी हे तुझी पूर्णता मंगल बोला हवे ते मला काय त्याचे पुरे जाणतो मीच माझे बळ. And the key lines, of course it's a long poem, but I'll just quickly say, jauntily holding an elephant calf in one hand, in the other with a lion's cub mewling I stand. The majestic tiger, how dead with fear, peeps from his hiding place for his life dear. These mountains are mere rocks to deceive, the waves of the ocean like trembling leaves. Recognizing myself, my name I proudly bear. I'm truly self-realized and self-aware. No need have I of a mirror. Why do I seek a path clearer? Am I not complete and auspicious? This is the key. Am I not complete and auspicious? Because often when girls are born, they are told, "Arey, kya ho gaya?" You know. So, am I not complete and auspicious? The purpose of God's creation felicitous. Lakshmi I. It matters not to me what is your opinion. I well know my own strength, my dominion. So this is what every girl and woman must say, is every Indian must say and stand proud and tall in the world.
Amazing, amazing. A mantra for all of us in the room, both men and women. And I'm going to open the questions for the audience. We have about 5 to 7 minutes, so we can take 1 or 2 questions. Anyone has a question in the audience?
Namaste. Thank you so much for choosing Kanpur, and you're very versatile, and that's something that really impressed me. But something, you exude so much of patriotism. So is it the silent DNA, or your services, or you as a person? So what really influenced? Because I can see there's so much of patriotism in everything that you say, and that's something that has got rubbed onto me.
Thank you. Yes, I think you rightly detected this sense of the self about India and belief in its greatness. It comes, of course, it's in the DNA. Both my parents were very nationalistic in a very positive way, and also representing India abroad, defending her interests, defining her interests, and also, representing India as a civilizational state. This is something that, of course, comes with, that's what I've carried with me. And for years, I have felt anxious. When will India really reach its potential as a country and match up to its civilizational greatness? There is a kind of gap there has been. Now we are on that path, third largest economy, moving on to second largest, setting those goals. For the first time, we are setting these goals of greatness. So, yes, I must confess to that. And I will always be. And I think my husband too. Both of us, I think, act and interact on each other that's something that comes with also my not only DNA but then my soulmate as well.
Just a very small question, a following question. So, when we say nationalism and when we say humanity, at times
Yes.
are they at loggerheads? Because you worked with UN, so the question.
Yes. No, I think Indian nationalism has never been at loggerheads with humanism. In fact, Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, which India has now put on the global map and global DNA through the G20 summit. So that is our gift to the world. This whole humanism, human-centric development, humanism. So that's something that, and we've never attacked any country. We have never been aggressors. So it is really something that we can be proud of in so many ways. Deterring attacks is another matter, but we've never attacked. So it is very much, and we have been the strongest proponents of the global south, the more disadvantaged countries, the poorer countries, the less developed, least developed countries, and we've always stood for justice, global justice, global public good. We have always advanced, including now climate change, so many other and sustainable development goals. We have, and this whole project of Antodaya, Sarvodaya to Antodaya, all of that is actually our values being embedded into sustainable development goals.
हमें क्वेश्चन सर्कल सोने की चिड़िया से वापस सोने की चिड़िया, right?
Very good.
Very soon, very soon. Any other questions from the audience? Please raise your hand so that the mic can go to you. Okay, now I have a question, and apparently there are some love letters, right, between your parents, which you found, which are very integral to this book. 148 love letters. Yeah? Which you've incorporated in this book.
Yeah.
Can you share some samples, or can you share a little about those love letters? How did you come across them and how you've incorporated? Because I found it so beautiful. The very fact that some of the words shared between Guru and Malti were actually shared by two people in real life.
Yes.
That was something which struck a chord.
Yes.
Your parents, right?
Yes,
that struck a
absolutely.
chord with me. So please share a little about that.
In fact, when we were leaving on our first ambassadorial posting in 1999 and we were winding up, and then I discovered this trunk, tin trunk with, those days you used to have them, with these letters dating back to 1929 to 1933. And they were still intact, largely. And most,
just
yes,
thinking of, you found
in
those
fact,
letters.
yes, and most of them were from my father to my mother, because as Malti does in the book, my mother also she interrupted her education, law education. She was a brilliant law student. She interrupted her law education and went to Banaras and later Jaipur, which is not reflected in the book. But she went to Banaras to work there and teach at the Mahila Mahavidyalaya, which was just been established in 1929. And there is an Annie Besant episode which is there in the book. Anyway, so she goes there, and therefore they have first a remote relationship, what you would today call remote relationship, long distance relationship. So, and then later they get married, but they are still living apart. So these letters were written during that period, and they were so lyrical. They were so full of passion, emotion, anger, everything. And of course, I also belong to a generation when we wrote letters. And I remember writing letters to my husband when we were separated several times during our postings abroad. So I said, this has to be used. And of course, my mother's letters were very few and far between and very dry. So let me just tell you. So what I did was I used some, and I also imagined what my mother's reply could have been. So some of the letters are as they are, some of the letters are imagined. So it's a blend of that. But what is the value of the letters? Just the significance of the letters. So alive were Guru's letters that they threatened to incarnate into Malti's alter ego, teasing her mind with riddles about the universe, dipping into her soul in contemplation, whispering confidences into her ears, serenading her unabashedly, touching her body with the feather of his birds, giving advice when she was in a quandary, affirming her actions when she took adventurous decisions, sharing her disappointment at setbacks, yet not allowing her to rue her mistakes. So there is this letter. They finally decided on their date of marriage, because he's all the time cribbing about how he misses her, and then of course he's sending these torrid letters imagining how she is with him and how he is making love to her and all of that. So she, tires of all this in a way, and she says, okay, now let's set a date. And they set a date for the Purnima, May, Buddha Purnima, when, Malti promised to give Guru whatever he wanted on their wedding day. Okay? So this is what Guru writes. I'm delighted by your decision to give me whatever I want this Purnima. But take care, I'm very greedy. And what I ask will not be only for that day, but its repercussions will last for a lifetime. You must give me a present which you have never given and will never give to anyone else. And I will give you a similar present myself. You will receive it in the very act of giving. On that day, two beings shall be united into one.
Wow, so beautiful. I'm almost tempted to go and write a letter, in this times of emoji and video chats. I'm like feeling like writing a letter, so inspired.
Exactly. And Malti surprised him with her reply, and this is what I imagined would be her reply. Dearest Guru, I know that we feel frustrated by the delayed gratification of our mutual desires. Please enjoy the intensity of our longings too, and the thought that when we are eventually fulfilled in each other, we will forever cherish it. Remember Proverbs 13:12 from the Bible? Hope deferred makes the heart seek, but when the desire comes, it's a tree of life.
Mrs. Puri, we would have loved to continue hearing more of these poems and you singing us some more songs and reading these letters, but unfortunately we have to come to an end of this beautiful evening, which I feel so grateful to have been a part of. It is clear that Swallowing the Sun isn't just a historical novel. It's a story of courage, a story of resilience, and the unbreakable spirit of women through time. Personally, reading this book felt like being immersed in a rich tapestry of India's history, but also a mirror to the struggles for freedom, both personal and collective. And like I shared in the beginning, even though this was set during, an era which is much before when I was born, there was so much connection which I felt through these characters, and I'm sure each one in the audience here will feel that. I think it's more than just a novel. It's a call to action, to examine the roles we play in our own lives and how we can rise above the limitations placed on us. I personally urge everyone in this room to pick up the Swallowing the Sun and let it take you on a journey that will stay with us for far too long. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Aarti. You have been a wonderful interlocutor, and I always say that a reader and a critic can open new vistas about the book to an author, and this is what you have done. Thank you so much, and of course I very much admire all that you are doing, both professionally as an entrepreneur, but also what you are doing in the field of women's empowerment, including, of course, in the context of FICCI, but even in your own right, you have been working in this area. So congratulations, and I completely share your passion for educating girls and women. And in women, by the way, women's education, there is also the element of lifelong education, which is very important.
Express my heartfelt gratitude to Lakshmi Puri ji for taking us into her world and experiences through the art of storytelling in her book Swallowing the Sun. Just really fortunate to listen to the poetry and the paragraphs and everything. I would also like to appreciate Aarti Gupta for rightly navigating the conversation around the book. It was truly a pleasure listening to you. I would like to thank the SAS Women of Kanpur for their support with the event and the extraordinary ladies from FICCI, Neha Mahana, Nalini Sawal and the entire team. Your support for tonight's event is truly appreciated. Last but not the least, to everyone for joining us tonight. Without your presence and support, today's book launch event would not have been successful and enjoyable. Thank you to each one of you present here. And also, I would request everyone, this is one of an opportunity which we really need to avail, each one of us. We can pick up the book from outside, just buy it, and nothing better opportunity than this, to have the author sitting right here and get the book autographed and signed by her. So on your way out, kindly pick that up. Good night, everyone, and also you can just go for some tea and coffee. Thank you so much, everybody. Stay happy, stay healthy.